What is good, my hoods? It is me, MT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show, y'all. Today, we are going to do a breakdown of one of my personal favorite animated comic book movies of all time, Batman Under the Red Hood from 2010. As the first adaptation of one of the most important Batman stories of all time, I am super excited to get into this breakdown for you guys, so grab a snack and your favorite crowbar, and let's just jump into this dang thing. And of course, huge mega mondo spoilers ahead for the entire Red Hood story. So, if you somehow have never experienced any adaptation of this classic Batman story, do yourself a favor and watch the animated movie first and then come back to this video. You definitely don't want the experience spoiled for you because of some random YouTube video. But yeah, Batman Under the Red Hood was released on July 27th, 2010 and was produced by Batman the Animated Series creator Bruce Timm, while being directed by animation director and producer Brandon Vietti. And before directing this film, Vietti had previously directed the 2007 DC animated movie Superman Doomsday. But in regards to his career in cartoon directing, Vietti would also take part in directing episodes in series like 2001's Max Steel, the 2003 Spider-Man animation, the 2004 The Batman cartoon, 2007's Legion of Superheroes, and the 2008 Batman Brave and the Bold cartoon. And with the release of Under the Red Hood generating over $12 million in home video sales and becoming one of the most acclaimed DC animated films ever, Vietti would also go on to direct other DC animated features like 2020's Batman Death in the Family, as well as the 2024 Watchmen animated films. Under the Red Hood was also written by comic book writer Judd Winick, the same guy who wrote the original world-shattering Under the Hood story for DC Comics in 2005, a story that spanned from Batman 635 all the way to Batman 650. And with this new chance to retell the story that he told 5 years prior in DC Comics, Judd Winick was then allowed to craft a more polished and refined version of the Under the Hood tale that he would see as superior to the source material. And it was actually Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight film that inspired Judd Winick to want to adapt his Under the Hood story into a dramatic animated film. Like, the raw emotions that Christopher Nolan's characters expressed during that particular film filled Judd Winick with the confidence that his Under the Hood story was perfect for an equally emotionally impactful Batman movie. And as most of you probably already know, Winick's Under the Hood storyline was a huge deal in DC Comics history because it would mark the first time in 17 years that the character Jason Todd would be featured in a DC comic. In the infamous 1988 Death in the Family story arc, which spans Batman issues 426 to 429, Batman's second Robin, Jason Todd, was mercilessly executed by the sick and twisted Batman villain known as you, the comic book reader. I was about to say the Joker, then I remembered what I wrote. Because at the very end of Batman issue 427, Death in the Family story writer Jim Starlin, along with series penciler Jim Aparo, would poll the readers as to whether or not Jason Todd would survive being exploded by the Joker. And after 10,614 people decided to call the 1-900 number at the back of the comic, 5,343 of you sick freaks would vote in favor for Jason Todd to become Toasted Boy Wonder Bread. Only 72 votes were the difference between life and death, but unfortunately for Jason, the comic book readers wanted his blood. So Batman issue 428 would confirm Jason's grim end. I mean, yeah, we all know that Jason Todd was not as lighthearted and spirited as Dick Grayson, but god dang, did y'all really have to freaking explode the boy? God damn.
I said god damn.
Speaking of warehouse fires, you should check out some of the hot fire that you can wear around the house over at HeavySpoilers.shop. We've got shirts inspired by your favorite movies and TV shows like Fallout Season 2, Avengers Doomsday, It, Welcome to Derry, Stranger Things, and so much more. So visit the Heavy Spoilers merch store at HeavySpoilers.shop today to pick up some hot fire for your body. But anyways, the movie begins at the mansion of Batman villain Ra's al Ghul, a character who made their first appearance in 1971's Batman 232. And while staring out of his window, Ra's regrets going into business with a madman, with that madman later being revealed to be the Joker. And after Ra's al Ghul is alerted to Joker having kidnapped Robin in Sarajevo, Bosnia, the movie shifts to Jason Todd's brutal beating by the pasty white hands of the Joker with a crowbar. And this is of course a recreation of the moment when Joker beats up Jason Todd with a crowbar in Batman 427. And while this movie has this beating take place in Bosnia, in Batman 427, Jason actually gets his ass beat in Ethiopia while attempting to reunite with his birth mother. a blonde bitch named Sheila Haywood.
Whoa, calm down, Jamal.
And yeah, I know that's mean to say about a woman, but that stupid hoe sold Jason out to the Joker almost immediately, which is why her dumbass would end up getting blown up alongside Jason Todd by the end of the issue. And honestly, good riddance. But here in the movie, Jason Todd is all by himself when those particular fireworks begin. Another major change that this movie makes in comparison to the comics is how Robin is dressed in a completely different Robin costume. The Robin costume design that Jason wears during this flashback sequence actually originally belonged to Batman's third Robin, Tim Drake. Tim Drake actually originally started wearing this black and red suit in issue number 51 of the 52 comic book series as a tribute to the late Superboy, following Superboy's sacrifice during the Infinite Crisis event. Playing this teenage Jason Todd at Joker's Piñata Party is actor Vincent Martella, famous for voicing the character Phineas in the beloved Phineas and Ferb cartoon, as well as playing Chris Rock's childhood best friend Greg in the sitcom Everybody Hates Chris. Vincent's little brother Alexander Martella would actually provide the voice for the younger version of Jason Todd that we see in a later flashback. And playing the Joker himself is beloved voice actor John DiMaggio, famous for playing Bender on Futurama and Jake the Dog on Adventure Time. He was reportedly brought onto the production to replace actor Powers Booth, who was reportedly attached to the role at some point before he had to drop out apparently. And after Joker beats Jason to a pulp, he talks about how fun it was before locking the warehouse door behind him. And right before Jason goes up in flames, you can see him completely accept his fate as the countdown clock reaches 0. A little detail that I love because it shows just how much Batman's training was ingrained within Jason's very core. Because instead of dying in fear, he accepted his situation calmly and just let it happen. But yeah, being just seconds too late, Batman finally arrives to the fiery scene on his Batcycle, a vehicle that actually made its first appearance in Detective Comics 233 from 1956 as a vehicle created and written by the original Kathy Kane Batwoman. A live-action version of the Batcycle actually written by Batman would later be featured in the 1966 Batman TV show. But comic Batman would not get his own Batcycle until 1985's Batman 384. And as Batman pulls Jason's lifeless body from the fiery wreckage, the handcuffs that the Joker had on Jason seem to have mysteriously disappeared during the explosion, which is kind of weird, but totally understandable considering how this moment is meant to recreate the iconic art of Batman carrying Jason's lifeless body from Batman 428. Then, after the intro credits set to the fantastic score from the film's composer Christopher Drake, the movie jumps forward 5 years before showing us the streets of Gotham City. And as we get a quick pan over Gotham's dark and dirty streets, you can immediately tell how much director Brandon Vietti was heavily inspired by Bruce Timm's iconic work with the Batman animated series, purposely giving this Gotham a much darker color palette than other DC animated projects from that time. The movie then shifts to a meeting of the top substance dealers in Gotham. Chi-Chi, the dealer wearing sunglasses at night, is voiced by voice actor Carlos Alazraqui, famous for playing roles such as Rocco in Rocco's Modern Life, Spyro the Dragon in the original 1998 Spyro the Dragon video game, and Mr. Crocker in the Fairly Odd Parents cartoon. But in the realm of DC animation, he has also voiced the character Bane in both 2012's Justice League Doom and 2019's Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, while also voicing various characters in Justice League Crisis on Two Earths and both Dark Knight Returns animated films. The large black dealer named Tyler Branford is voiced by the great Kevin Michael Richardson, whose deep voice has allowed him to play a number of DC villains over his career, including the Joker in 2004's The Batman cartoon, Raven's demonic father Trigon in Teen Titans, as well as the characters Black Manta and Solomon Grundy in 2014's JLA Adventures Trapped in Time. But outside of DC animated stuff, you will probably recognize his voice as Captain Gantu from Lilo and Stitch, the Shredder from Nickelodeon's 2012 Ninja Turtles cartoon, and Monster Girl from Amazon's Invincible. And the blonde-haired Bobo is voiced by actor Gary Cole, whose most prominent roles include Bill Lumbergh in Office Space, Mike Brady in the Brady Bunch movie, Reese Bobby in Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, and Cotton McKnight in Dodgeball, a true underdog story. And he is also widely recognized for television performances as Alden Parker in NCIS, Ken Davison in Veep, Kurt McVeigh in The Good Wife, and Vice President Bob Russell in The West Wing. Great show, love that show. And what I love about this scene and this movie as a whole is how closely it follows the original comic. Like for example, when the Red Hood appears out of nowhere holding an AK-47, he says a lot of the same words that his comic book counterpart did in the pages of Batman issue number 635.
Then whose party is this?
I thought it was you East Side losers. You already rode over for the Black Mask, and I figured that you were gonna ask us in.
So you set up this meet?
Nah, I thought it was Chi-Chi.
Wasn't my meat.
How the hell with this? I'm gone. You brain donors want to hang around and...
Sit down. It's my meeting. You wanna die? There's easier ways to kill yourself. Yeah, like yelling at the guy who's holding the AK-47.
The Red Hood then announces that he is now in charge of Gotham's drug trade, and that they are all required to give him 40% of all of their earnings in exchange for protection from both Batman and Gotham's main kingpin of crime, Black Mask, so long as none of them deal to any innocent kids. And to prove that he's serious, he throws the Substance Lords a duffel bag filled with the heads of all of their former lieutenants. Except we don't actually see any of those heads like we do in Batman 635. And the reason for this and other toned down moments of the Under the Hood story is due to Warner Brothers studio executives. Because if Bruce Timm, Judd Winnick, and Brandon Vietti had their way, Batman Under the Red Hood would be an entirely rated R affair in order to faithfully translate how gruesome the original Under the Hood story was. However, Warner Brothers was a little bit nervous about their animated comic book adaptations at the time, mostly because the 2009 Wonder Woman and Watchmen animated features failed to meet Warner Brothers' box office expectations. So, in order for Under the Red Hood to be seen by as many people as possible, Warner Brothers forced them to tone down the violence and other adult themes to secure that PG-13 rating. And with the Red Hood's meeting now adjourned, the movie then shifts to a group of goons attempting to flee the pursuit of the Dark Knight himself, played by actor Bruce Greenwood, who, just a year prior, played the role of Captain Pike in J.J. Abrams' first Star Trek movie. But Bruce Greenwood is not the only Star Trek captain in this movie, as Ra's al Ghul actor Jason Isaac would also go on to play Star Trek Captain Lorca in the Star Trek Discovery TV show, which is kind of funny. But yeah, after voicing Batman in this movie, Bruce Greenwood would go on to voice Batman in DC animated projects like 2018's Gotham by Gaslight, the 2020 Death in the Family animation, as well as the fan favorite Young Justice animated series. The Batman in this movie had it a lot easier than his comic book counterpart when going after this particular cargo, because in the comic, Batman literally had to go up against a whole squad of heavily armed and armored Black Mask goons, but here it's only a small group of gangsters. And over the 5 years since Jason Todd's death, we can see that Batman has upgraded his suit and belt a little bit, no longer wearing the yellow-backed bat logo at the center of his chest. And I like this particular change because it kind of reflects how much darker Batman's life has become ever since losing Robin and deciding to fight crime alone. And after the goons wreck their car when being confronted by Batman, one of the packages that they're attempting to traffic falls on the ground before opening up, exposing the cargo as the DC Comics villain Amazo. Introduced in 1960's Batman Brave and the Bold issue number 30, Amazo is an android created by the villainous Dr. Ivo to duplicate the abilities of superhumans, which Dr. Ivo used to attempt to destroy the Justice League with all of their own superpowers. Amazo also makes a cameo during Judd Winnick's original Under the Hood storyline. However, his involvement actually comes after Batman and Nightwing actively chase down the Red Hood into one of Black Mask's shipping warehouses. Here in the movie, they meet Amazo well before running into the Red Hood. And even though the designs for the Amazo in Batman 636 and movie Amazo are pretty much the same, the Amazo in the film has a letter A on his waist, much like the character Amazo started doing around 1974 with Justice League of America issue number 112. I mean, most iterations of Amazo don't have the A logo, but some do. And speaking of Nightwing, he immediately enters the scene while being voiced by Neil Patrick Harris, who previously worked with Brandon Vietti in the 2003 Spider-Man cartoon, where he voiced the role of Spider-Man himself. And as Batman and Nightwing engage their new enemy, the goons on the sidelines start talking about how Nightwing used to be Batman's first ever Robin.
It's the exposition!
Which is kind of a major shift from the original DC Comics continuity, because the fact that 3 random people in Gotham know that the original Robin and Nightwing are the same person kind of implies that Nightwing's identity is at least partially known, which was definitely not the case at the time. Because in the comics, Nightwing was just a new hero on the scene from the perspective of the average citizen from Gotham or Bloodhaven. But yeah, during their fight, Batman throws some batarangs at Amazo, leading to Nightwing saying the following.
I think you'll have to do better than that, boss.
I did.
Will that do any good?
It'll slow it down.
Think so?
And even though Amazo getting his leg blown off with a batarang is accurate to their fight in Batman issue 637, it's actually Amazo himself that tells Batman that he has to do better than that, instead of Nightwing. A pissed off Amazo then uses the powers that he absorbed from the Kryptonian hero Superman to fly after the dynamic duo and shoot heat vision blasts at them from out of his eyes. But it would be Amazo's eyes that would prove to get the best of him when Batman uses some of his putty bombs to blow his head clean off. Batman does do a similar thing in Batman issue 637, but Amazo does not end up being defeated because of that. He actually ends up tanking that shit like an absolute demon, which is crazy. Like, it would actually take the Batmobile's missile systems to take down Amazo in those comics. I mean, it definitely would have been nice to see more of the Justice League's abilities from Amazo other than Superman's, but I'm not sure if Batman and Nightwing would have survived a fully powered up Amazo without some superpowered help. But yeah, after Amazo's defeat, the captured thugs reveal that they're attempting to steal from the Black Mask on behalf of the mysterious Red Hood before the Red Hood himself guns them down in cold blood. This then causes Batman to chase right after him in the Batplane, a vehicle that Batman has been flying ever since 1940's Batman #1, back when it was designed to look like a literal flying bat creature. The Red Hood responds by hopping into his own blue Chevy Impala, the same type of car that Red Hood voice actor Jensen Ackles used to drive with his brother in the long-running Supernatural TV show. The car in that show was actually a 1967 Chevy Impala to be exact. And during this Impala chase scene, we can see how well this movie blends 3D models with the movie's overall 2D animation, which is something that I really remember loving animation doing during that era. And after the two travel through a tunnel, a clock above the tunnel's exit reads that the current time of the chase is 3:55 a.m. The chase then ends inside of a chemical plant where Batman has a flashback of the original Red Hood tripping and falling into a vat of chemicals that would transform him into the Joker, an origin story that would be revealed in Detective Comics 168. However, in that original story, it was originally revealed that the Red Hood jumped into the chemicals voluntarily in order to escape Batman. The Red Hood eventually escapes, leading Batman and Nightwing to look over their intel on the Red Hood in the Batcave. Batman flips through images of various people in Gotham's history that have used the Red Hood title before, a direct reference to the Red Hood Gang, a gang that made its first appearance in Alan Moore's classic 1988 story, The Killing Joke. And since the Joker was the first person in Gotham's history to ever use the Red Hood title, Batman and Nightwing shoot on over to the Arkham Asylum to have a chat with him. However, the Joker would just laugh in their faces, telling them that he would never commit a crime without Batman knowing that he did it. Then we shift on over to the main office of Gotham's Kingpin, Black Mask. Black Mask first appeared in Batman number 386 in 1985, created by Doug Munch and Tom Mandrake. And in that issue, we learned that Roman Sionis was born to wealthy but neglectful parents in Gotham City. And because of that, he grew to resent their social hypocrisy. This would then cause him to develop a fixation on masks after his troubled childhood, before he would completely ruin his family's cosmetics company after he inherited it. Then, after being forced out of the company following a bailout by Wayne Enterprises, Roman's mind would snap, so much so that he would craft a black skull mask from his father's coffin, becoming the sadistic crime lord Black Mask, and holding a deep grudge against Bruce Wayne personally. And in Batman issue 387, Roman's mask would become permanently seared onto his face after that absolute dumbass would run directly into a burning room in order to evade getting caught by Batman. So both Black Mask and the Joker have that in common when it comes to their origins of their disfigured faces. And even though Black Mask's mask looks like a black skull in the movie, the original Black Mask design in the comics was far more human-like, straight up looking like a black face.
What's wrong with the blackface? I feel like it was in very poor taste in retrospect.
But you know, since DC can't really have a white man in blackface as a major recurring Batman villain, the mask would eventually evolve to become more skull-like in its appearance. In the movie, Black Mask is voiced by actor Wade Williams, who is most known for his role as the crooked prison guard Bellic in the Prison Break TV show. And honestly, Wade Williams is absolutely fantastic in this role, knocks it out of the park. Black Mask's personal assistant, Miss Lee, is voiced by actress Kelly Hu, an actress that would go on to voice even more DC animated roles after this, such as the Green Lantern Lyra in the Green Lantern Emerald Knights animated movie, the Young Justice villain Cheshire, Cheshire's mother Paula, and Cheshire's daughter Leon, as well as the character Lady Shiva from the 2013 video game Batman Arkham Origins. And she would also play the character China White in the CW Arrow TV show. The character Miss Lee is actually a gender-swapped version of the character David Lee, who made his first appearance in Batman 635 in the original Under the Hood story. And she was apparently added into the movie in order to make the film a little bit less of a sausage fest. But yeah, Black Mask crashes out about the Red Hood making problems on his turf and orders his people to take care of him and to make sure that his next helicopter shipment doesn't end up destroyed like Amazo. And after this, we shift on over to said helicopter shipment being immediately hijacked by the Red Hood after spying on that Black Mask meeting. But he's immediately confronted by Batman and Nightwing. The Red Hood then purposely causes the helicopter to fall towards the pedestrians below, but Batman manages to use his cables and quick thinking to catch the helicopter just in time. Almost like he played Spider-Man PS4 well before it came out. And after Nightwing scoops Batman out of the sky like Spider-Man, the two of them chase after the Red Hood. Batman almost manages to wrap the Red Hood with his cables, but the Red Hood uses his past experience with Batman to cut the wire before it even has a chance to tighten. A moment straight out of this page from Batman 636. And as the chase goes on, Nightwing tells Batman that he thinks the Red Hood's abilities are impressive, to which Batman replies, "Nothing we haven't seen before." Our first hints towards Batman putting the pieces together as to the Red Hood's true identity. And after landing inside of a subway station, the Red Hood would detonate some explosives that would lead to Nightwing getting his right leg injured. In the original Under the Hood comics, Nightwing actually starts the story already recovering from a leg injury after having been shot by the police in Nightwing issue number 98. And this is why Nightwing wears a metal brace around his right knee throughout that entire story. And after getting patched up by Alfred in the Batcave, Batman dismisses Nightwing and thanks him for helping him out. And if I had to guess, Batman watching Nightwing almost get blown up by explosives freaked him the hell out and caused him to fear losing another son and sidekick in the same way that he lost Jason. Batman going out of his way to say thank you to Nightwing when he has never really done so in the past feels like Batman remembering to show gratitude to his son for risking his life to help him out, because he has likely spent the last 5 years wishing that he could have thanked Jason at least once before the Joker blew his ass up. And after Nightwing leaves, Batman manages to isolate some of the audio that he recorded during his chase and realizes that the Red Hood referred to him by his first name, causing Batman to realize that the Red Hood really was his fallen sidekick, Jason Todd. Then the movie shifts on over to Black Mask as he fumes at his staff for losing another shipment to the Red Hood. And I really like how the movie has Black Mask positioned in front of this massive painting of multicolored flames, as it sort of harkens back to the fire that caused that Black Mask to be seared onto his face back in Batman 387, like I mentioned before. Black Mask then orders his gang to flush out the Red Hood by any means possible, which then causes the movie to then transition to a club called the Beret Rouge Club before it is then attacked by Black Mask goons in retaliation to the Red Hood's attacks on Black Mask's shipments. The name of this club is especially fitting given that Beret Rouge literally means red beret or red hat in French, pointing towards the Red Hood. However, this Beret Rouge club has appeared in another Bruce Timm production before, specifically the Mad as a Hatter episode from season 1, episode 24 of Batman the Animated Series. And after this attack on the Beret Rouge Club, the movie transitions to the Red Hood watching over a different bar called the Rusty Nail, a bar that made an appearance in Batman issue 519 from June 1995. The Red Hood then saves Tyler Bramford's brown M&M looking ass from getting murked by the Mask's men before he's immediately confronted by the fearsome Hand of Four, who were also hired by the Black Mask to kill him. In the original Under the Hood story, Red Hood would instead be jumped by 3 Black Mask aligned villains: the Green Arrow villain Count Vertigo, the Firestorm villain Hyena, and the Shazam villain Captain Nazi. The fearsome Hand of Four are characters original to this movie that were created to just replace those 3 non-Batman related characters for this movie. Though technically, Black Mask would also send the Batman villain Mr. Freeze at the Red Hood as well back in Batman issue number 638. But the movie ultimately decided to trim Mr. Freeze out of the story to keep things less complicated. And this might sound a little bit weird, but to me, the fearsome Hand of Four feels very Ninja Turtles coded. I mean, you've got the leader holding 2 katanas like Leonardo, another one named Baton with a staff like Donatello, a guy like Raphael named Bulk who is big and muscly, and a guy named Shot that can shoot beams out of his singular eyeball like Michelangelo.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Okay, maybe not that last part, but 3 out of 4 of them feel very Ninja Turtles coded to me. And hey, speaking of the Ninja Turtles, feel free to check out our breakdowns of the live action Ninja Turtles films over on the Heavy Spoilers channel. Batman would soon join the fight to give Red Hood some backup, and after making quick work of 3 members of the squad, the Red Red Hood would then blow up the head of Shot the Assassin, much like how his comic book counterpart would end up frying the head of Captain Nazi in Batman 647. Red Hood then tells Batman that him stepping in to regulate the criminal underworld of Gotham is what's making the streets safer before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Then after the fight, Batman finds some of the Red Hood's blood on one of the assassin's katanas. And back at the Batcave, Batman scans that blood and compares it to a blood sample that he took from Jason Todd back when he first became Robin. On Batman's computer screen, you can see the words DNA 00635 underneath the Red Hood's picture, a reference to Batman 635, the very first issue of the Red Hood storyline. And under a picture of a young Jason Todd, we can see the words DNA 00428, referencing Batman 428, the issue that confirmed Jason Todd as dead. And this is then followed by a flashback to one of Batman and Jason's outings together as a crime-fighting duo. Together, they foil a heist conducted by the Riddler and his gang, with the Riddler being voiced by producer Bruce Timm himself. And this scene is a recreation of the flashback from Batman 645. But instead of the Riddler, the original story actually featured the Flash villain Captain Boomerang as the villain that Batman and Robin confront. And while Robin ends the scene by crouching on top of the Riddler's body in the movie, in the comic, the flashback actually ends with Robin crouching on top of the body of one of Captain Boomerang's biggest thugs. This is then followed by another flashback of an older Robin using excessive force to shatter the collarbone of a criminal, yet another moment out of Batman 645. We then shift on over to Black Mask's office, where Bro is crashing out yet again over the Red Hood still being alive. And again, much like a good chunk of the film, a lot of this dialogue is reused from the source material, this time from Batman issue 646.
You wanna tell me why this guy ain't dead? Oh, why hasn't Batman wiped this little smear off the face of the planet?
Maybe he doesn't want to. Perhaps he's letting you and the Red Hood war it out. He could be waiting
to take on the winner? What do you think this is? A tennis tournament?
I'm just saying.
You're an idiot, and you don't know Batman. He's not letting this lunatic just run wild. He can't catch him either. Can't you feel it? We're stuck in the damn crossfire. Oh, hell. Sir!
Wow, he sure can move when he really wants to.
While the Red Hood only manages to blow up Black Mask's office space with the rocket launcher, the Red Hood in the comics actually manages to cause the entire floor of the Black Mask building to erupt in flames, which is wild. And this escalation of street warfare then causes the Black Mask to escalate things even further his own way by breaking the Joker out of Arkham Asylum so that he can kill the Red Hood himself. And even though this is obviously a terrible decision, I love how Judd Winnick decides to have the Joker be involved in his retelling of the Red Hood story in this specific way, because we can literally see how history is repeating itself. Because much like how Ra's al Ghul recruited the Joker in order to target Jason Todd Robin in Bosnia 5 years prior, we are seeing the Black Mask do the same thing with Jason Todd's Red Hood. And while Black Mask recruits the Joker, we can see that the Joker is wearing a prison jumpsuit with the numbers 11940 on it, which is a direct reference to Batman #1 from the year 1940. And as this is happening, Bruce Wayne and Alfred decide to dig up Jason Todd's grave, who Bruce Wayne buried not far from the graves of his parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne. And on Jason Todd's grave, we can see that the words ally and friend have been carved under his name. And I do find it kind of weird how Bruce didn't refer to him as his son on his grave, since Bruce Wayne did end up adopting Jason Todd in the comics, but that just goes to show how much Jason Todd was more of a sidekick than a son when he was alive. And Bruce digging Jason Todd's grave also happened in the pages of Batman 646 of the Red Hood story arc. However, in the source material, Jason Todd's grave is actually completely unmarked, which is kind of weird. But by the end of the comic, Bruce Wayne determines that there was never a body buried in the casket. And this is because in Batman Annual number 25 from 2006, we learn how Jason Todd was brought back to life 6 months after his death because of weird multiverse shenanigans during the Infinite Crisis storyline. And after spending some time mindlessly roaming the streets like a zombie, he is eventually found by Ra's al Ghul's daughter, Talia. She's actually the one who throws Jason into the Lazarus pit in order to restore his memories and personality, very much against her father's wishes. But in this movie, it's Ra's al Ghul himself that takes the initiative to put Jason Todd in the Lazarus pit out of guilt, which Batman learns after paying a visit to Ra's al Ghul's estate after discovering a dummy in Jason Todd's casket. Talia's opinion of Jason in her quick cameo in this movie isn't nearly as friendly as it is in the comic, as we can see Talia almost try to kill Jason when he emerges from the Lazarus pit with a broken mind. And after Batman's confrontation with Ra's al Ghul, Alfred tells Batman that what happened to Jason was not his fault. And on one of the computer screens near Alfred, we can see a news article detailing Jason Todd's first outing as Robin in this movie universe. The article says, Mayor Hamilton Hill was in trouble. He was leaving his house Friday night when he found himself facing a street gang bent on violence. But that's when Robin showed up. That's a funny way to find out Batman's got a new partner, says Hill. Introduced in 1981's Detective Comics 503, Hamilton Hill was originally one of Gotham's most corrupt politicians who would eventually become mayor of Gotham outright, using his influence to get good men like Jim Gordon fired from the force. And even though Hamilton Hill does make a small cameo in Jason Todd's first appearance as Robin in Batman issue 366, he's not really involved in Robin's first outing. He just appears as the mayor of Gotham. And hey, speaking of Commissioner Gordon, in the following scene, we see Big Daddy Gordo make a quick cameo in this movie, also voiced by actor Gary Cole, who I mentioned also being the voice of the gangster Bobo earlier. Jim Gordon actually wasn't the commissioner at all in the original Under the Hood story. At that time, the commissioner was actually a black man named Michael Akins, becoming commissioner after Jim Gordon retired after being shot in the line of duty. But anyway, since the Joker is the Joker, he immediately betrays the Black Mask and assembles an audience of policemen and news reporters to watch him and his associates burn. The news reporter that alerts Alfred to the Joker's truck attack is actually voiced by casting director Andrea Romano, a woman that has been casting DC animated projects for decades, pretty much since the Batman animated series. She also did casting for the Batman Under the Phantasm movie, which we broke down in heavy spoilers not too long ago. But anyways, while they're tied up, Black Mask's assistant Miss Lee can be seen wearing duct tape around her mouth, much like her comic book counterpart David Lee ended up having on his mouth when the Red Hood killed him in Batman 649. However, in this movie, Miss Lee and Black Mask do not end up dying because Batman manages to extinguish the flames the Joker tried to light them up with. Batman then tries to apprehend the Joker himself, but Red Hood manages to cut the Joker free to kidnap him. And after he escapes, the Red Hood dares Batman to meet him in Crime Alley, the famous location where Batman's parents were killed by the criminal Joe Chill in Detective Comics 33. When Batman arrives at Crime Alley, he has a flashback to the night that he first met Jason Todd at Crime Alley. Jason literally stole the wheels off of the Batmobile, a nod to the famous Jingle Bells parody song. You know,
Jingle bells, Batman smelt, Robin laid an egg. The Batmobile lost the wheel, and the Joker got away.
This flashback also happens in Batman 645 pretty much the exact same way, though in the film in the background you can actually see the theater that the Wayne family went to before they were gunned down. Batman and the Red Hood then begin their incredible street fight, one that eventually has Batman light the Red Hood's jacket on fire in order to dispose of all of the Red Hood's gadgets, a moment straight out of their fight in Batman 650. The Red Hood then leads Batman into the bathroom of a seemingly random building, but what's super weird about this bathroom is how the movie's animators totally forgot to draw an actual bathroom door. This is straight up just a bathroom that nobody can get in or out of, which is super hilarious.
I know I failed you, but I tried to save you, Jason. I'm trying to save you now.
Is that what you think this is about? That you let me die? I don't know what cloud your judgment worse, your guilt or your antiquated sense of morality. Bruce, I forgive you for not saving me. But why? Why on God's earth is he still alive?
So, who's got a camera? Ooh, get one of me and the kid first. Then you and me, then the three of us, and then one with the crowbar. Then...
You be as quiet as possible, or I'll put one in your lap first.
Party pooper. No cake for you.
Ignoring what he's done in the past. Blindly, stupidly disregarding the entire graveyards he's filled. The thousands who have suffered. The friends he's crippled. You know, I thought I'd be the last person you'd ever let him hurt.
When Red Hood mentions the friends that Joker has crippled, this is of course a reference to the time that the Joker shot and crippled Barbara Gordon in Batman the Killing Joke, forcing her to use a wheelchair for a pretty damn long time before she eventually got better.
Were you killed?
Sadly, yes. But I lived.
And after chewing out Batman for not properly avenging him by putting the Joker on the ground, Jason gives Bruce a gun and tells him that he's going to end the Joker, and that the only way to stop him from doing so is for Batman to kill him first. However, because Batman is Batman, he manages to throw a batarang directly into the barrel of Jason's gun, causing Jason to hurt his hand in the process. This happens differently in the comics, as Batman actually ends up throwing a batarang directly into Jason's shoulder to disarm him. And another element that is different from the source material is what happens next, because in Batman 650, we actually see the Joker set off the Red Hood's bomb himself by shooting the bomb with a gun. But in the movie, it is Jason who switches on the timer of the bomb in order for all three of them to be blown up together. Batman tries to stop the bomb, but Joker tackles him to the ground. And with next to no time left, Batman chooses to grab Jason at the last minute before the bomb goes off, redeeming himself for not being able to do so 5 years prior. Then the movie of course ends with Batman telling Alfred that his opinion of Jason Todd has not changed despite everything that has happened, and that Jason Todd will always be his boy wonder. But anyways, that is it for this breakdown of Batman Under the Red Hood from 2010. What is your favorite scene from the movie? Let us know in the comment section down below. But like always, you guys can follow me at Mastertainment on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, wherever I am on the internet. But most importantly, follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube by hitting that subscribe button and maybe even hitting that like button if you guys enjoyed the video. But like always, I've been MT, you guys have been amazing, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.